Hello and welcome to the Watering Hole. Thanks for checking out this clip. Don't forget to like and subscribe because that'll make the baby Jesus cry, and I know how much you guys love making the baby Jesus cry. I think it's time for some tweets.
Okay.
Okay, starting with Alex Brusewitz. Alex Brocephus. I'm reading that as Brocephus. It's close enough.
Yes.
It's close enough.
Alex Brocephus, let's do it.
Alex Brocephus. So, take it away, Brocephus.
Donald Trump is the most persecuted man in the history of America.
That's so wrong. I tried to tweet about this and I was like, okay, I'm going to list all the people that have been, like, just the groups of people, not individual people, just broad groups of people that have been more persecuted than Donald Trump in the history of America. And it's like, no, there's not enough room in the tweets, even for broad groups of people. Like, it's like, there's the Native Americans from the Trail of Tears. There's the Native Americans from all the other times around that same time that weren't explicitly on the Trail of Tears. Any black people from before slavery was abolished. Any black people from before segregation was done away with. Which apparently Alabama just had wasn't there like a commission or something just started in Alabama because they found that there were a bunch of schools that were still segregated? So
yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe technically speaking, segregation was done away with in the 60s, but it was still in practice up to now. How about anyone that went to prison for a minor drug offense?
Yeah.
Basically, if you list everyone that has ever lived in American history, and they're probably the chances are good that they have been more persecuted than Donald Trump in their lifetime.
I mean, Donald Trump is definitely not persecuted, especially not the most persecuted man in the history of America. I mean, I feel like this guy just doesn't even understand. Like they used to, hang people in the middle of the street, and it wasn't like, this is done in secret or something like that. Like they had block parties when they would lynch people, from the tree in the middle of the town. Like they would take pictures standing by the bodies and so most persecuted man, please.
Yeah, I didn't even mention the Japanese internment camps during World War II.
Yeah, there's that too.
Oh, so many things. Muslims right after 9/11. Muslim Americans, it keeps going. It's just it's so wrong. It's so very, very wrong. Oh, we got Jim Jordan next. What about Americans who already paid off their student loans? Well, let's see. I feel like this is the easiest trolley problem ever invented. So there's a trolley going down a track that's already killed 5 people that were tied to the track. You can now divert it so that it's not going to kill the next 5 people that are tied to the track. Do you pull that lever? There's no one on the other track. Nobody's going to die if you pull the lever.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's already killed 5 people. What's 5 more people? I mean, if the previous 5 died, is that not good enough for the future 5 people? It's a stupid thing to say for sure. Also, just so that everybody knows, Jim Jordan helped cover up sexual abuse at Ohio State. So
yeah, that was when he was a coach, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I've heard that George Clooney is actually supposed to have been doing a documentary, or it's either a documentary or a docudrama about that entire incident. And I want to say
okay. I thought for a minute you were about to say that George Clooney was involved in the cover up somehow, and I'm like, no, not George Clooney. I actually kind of liked him. Taking it back around to people that are more charismatic than Hitler and less problematic, George Clooney, very charismatic. Uh, Kevin Sorbo. It's not a twit tweets without K sorbet.
Sorbet.
Says, so my body, my choice, except for when it comes to student loan debt. What? That's when someone else should step in? Why does he think these things are equivalent? How stupid is this man?
I mean, I guess maybe my number of years of having to deal with like idiotic thinking like this, I understand how he gets there, because it's like,
because he heard the term student body.
Maybe, but the way that I say it is that people don't like other people telling other people what to do with their bodies. Like, if it's their body, it should be their decision, right? Which makes sense. But then when it's like, oh, my student debt is my choice, and so therefore outside forces shouldn't help me, shouldn't help relieve that particular pain, because Sorbet thinks that it's hypocritical, when it really isn't, because these things are not comparable.
Yeah, no, they're not even close to comparable.
But to Sorbet, it is comparable because it works for his narrative, and that's all he really cares about, is whether or not it'll work for his narrative.
See, now my question with this though is, did he actually have that thought himself, or did he copy this from like the Babylon Bee or something? Because a lot of times he very frequently will just like copy headlines from the Babylon Bee and post them as though they're his own tweets with no attribution.
Right, or he'll
copy and paste.
He'll copy basically the entire thing, but he'll change a couple things around.
Yeah,
and he thinks that's not plagiarism.
He copies other people's tweets on occasion too. He usually uses the Babylon Bee, but every now and then it's someone else's tweet. So I'm wondering if this is like someone's tweet that he saw. Yeah, I don't know.
It very well could have been.
Oh, Jassa says, did I share this tweet with you? I know I sent you one of his tweets. I did see someone send me one of his tweets. It was not this one. I got that after I'd already selected all the tweets for this, and we're already probably going to go over time because I got too many tweets, and then I added another one at the last minute, so sorry for not using the one you sent me. It was a doozy as well. I forget what it was, but it wasn't this one. PragerU says, you are responsible for your own health, not the government. To which I say, oh, they finally understand that a person's decision to get an abortion is between them and their doctor, and the government should not play a role in that. Right? That's what they're saying?
No, not at all. You're being far too kind.
Yeah, no, I watched the video that they linked in the reply to this. It was the Canada's healthcare system isn't that great at all, ever. And basically the whole thing amounted to we pay more taxes, and I know like 3 people that had to wait a while for a procedure, so they went to the States instead and paid $20,000 to get the procedure that would have been free in Canada if they waited a couple months earlier.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too about people that are unhappy about Canada's medical system, is that, oh, well, you have to wait so long to get this procedure. But it's like, okay, but you have to pay like an arm, a leg, and a testicle down here just to be able to get it. You're telling me that you can wait just a little bit longer and get it for free up there, and you can retain both testicles?
Well, there definitely are situations where, like, because we do have longer waiting times in Canada than you do in the States. It is a fact. I'm not going to gloss over that. And there are definitely times when there are times when that delay could be life-threatening if you have something severe. Now, generally speaking, they do kind of triage you and they bump the more urgent cases up to the front of the line, but you can't always do that, and sometimes there's too many urgent cases for how many doctors there are. So I'm not going to say that, like, if you have an extra $20,000, it's not going to kill you to go spend it in the States to get your surgery earlier in a life-threatening situation. Yeah, sure, fine, go for it. But like I like so many times in my own life has the fact that my healthcare is essentially free saved my ass. Like, my kid spent the night in the hospital when he had a case of severe bronchitis a couple years back. An overnight hospital stay with the amount of treatment that he got and the number of tests that he had run on him and things like that could have easily run into the tens of thousands of dollars. And I just saw someone posting the options that they had for their healthcare plans in I think it's Michigan right now, and all of the plans had like a $17,000 deductible. So it's you pay $17,000 for your own healthcare before insurance even starts to kick in addition to your $1,300 a month premium. And it's like, I wouldn't have been able to afford that. Now, as far as the taxes go, like with us paying more taxes, like, yeah, we do pay more taxes in Canada than you do in the States for a lot of things. But you know what? You can actually look up exactly how much of your taxes go to what. So for instance, I know, I didn't look at it this past year, but I know in previous years for my family of 5, we've paid generally between $500 and $700 per year for healthcare. So compare that to the $1,300 a month with $17,000 deductible that you have to pay before the insurance even covers anything. And yeah, I'll happily pay my $500 a year in taxes for the healthcare.
Well, see, that's what a lot of people don't get about like universal healthcare, you know, here, like what's being proposed here in the States is that, you know, they don't want to hear, they pretty much have a very myopic view of, I don't want to pay more in taxes. But the problem is that, you know, if you remove what you're currently paying for insurance and you remove that from you know, being need to be paid, and now you're just paying a little bit more on your taxes, then, you know, I'm not going to speak for everybody's situation, but I would think that most people would come out either even or doing better as far as like, you know, how much you know, how much overall money you're making like after taxes.
Yeah, Adam Broughton says usually our healthcare issues involve provincial politicians moving to the right, a la Doug Ford, Mike Harris. I will push back on that a little. I mean, you're not wrong, but also like Ontario has some of the shortest wait times for procedures and stuff like that, and that's where Doug Ford is. But I don't think that's necessarily because right-wing politics equals shorter wait times. I think that's more just Ontario is where most of the people in Canada are, and that's where most of the doctors go, and that's where most of the research is done, and that's where most of the universities are. Like University of Toronto and University of Waterloo are both major players when it comes to medical advances. So it's probably just serendipity rather than specific politics stuff. But yeah, I can definitely see some of that. But the longest wait times tend to be out in Atlantic Canada, which I'd have to look up a map. I'm pretty sure most of them are fairly liberal. I think Nova Scotia's got a conservative guy in charge right now. I don't know. I know who all the who all the provinces vote for in an election cycle, but like after that I forget. I know who mine are, and even then just barely. Yeah, but yeah, no, I am happy with our healthcare. Yeah, there are some minor fees occasionally, like the whole thing when Mrs. Rhino died. That probably would have been expensive for me. I didn't even think of that, but because they had her on life support for about 4 days, just basically keeping her body alive so that her family from Montreal could make it down and say their goodbyes. And so there was all sorts of testing that was like, there was an MRI, there was a couple of, I don't know, I was very stressed out when they told me what they were doing, so I don't really remember it very well. But there was a lot going on.
That's understandable.
And yeah, I ended up, what I had to pay was $45 for the ambulance transfer from no, the transfer between hospitals is free. I just had to pay for the ambulance from my house to the hospital, because I remember that when my son had bronchitis, we took him to our local hospital. When he had to stay overnight, they had to transfer him to St. Catherine's Hospital, so they put him on an ambulance. Because we brought him to the local hospital first, the ambulance ride was free. If we had called the ambulance from our house, then it would have been $45.
Oh.
And he was all excited to get to ride in an ambulance. He was fine.
Oh.
But yeah, I've heard some places in the States, just an ambulance ride can be in the tens of thousands of dollars.
It can be pretty expensive. I mean, to the point where people would rather chance dying and driving themselves or having somebody else drive them rather than call the ambulance.
Well, don't take medical advice from me. I forget what scenario it is, but I know there are some scenarios where it actually is better to drive yourself to the hospital rather than wait for an ambulance. Like, obviously, if you're close enough to a hospital for that to be feasible. But I think it's like for basically anything other than immediate trauma wounds or whatever. Or maybe it's immediate trauma wounds that it's like if you get shot, best to go straight to the hospital rather than wait for an ambulance. I think that's what it is, because you can usually get yourself to a hospital quicker than an ambulance will arrive. And when you have a direct trauma wound like that, you need someone to stop the bleeding right away, sort of thing. I might be wrong on that. Don't take medical advice from a rhino on the internet.
And definitely don't take medical advice from me. I'm just some jackass on the internet.
Annie says, with my insurance, an ambulance is $1,000. That's a lot of money.
Oh, it is, yeah.
All right. Hey, you know this S.J. Thomason person?
Oh, yes, I do know that. She who shall not be named.
Oh, should I have censored out her thing?
Oh, no. That's something that I've called her.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm in on the joke.
Okay.
I just forgot about it. Anyway, so for the record, before I read this tweet, keep in mind that she is a business professor. She has a PhD in, I think it's like business management studies or something. Like she teaches HR management at a university or whatever. So like she should know the basics of economic systems. $650 for EMT, $30 for Uber. If Uber's going to be quicker, depending on what it is. Anyway, so communism is the passing of debt from one group to another. No, it isn't. Biden's plan to pass $10 billion in college debt to the rest of the country is redistributing income. That's communism. There's so much wrong. Like, she doesn't even, like, how is redistributing debt the same as redistributing income? That's not what that is. What? Does she think debt and income are the same thing? This business professor?
Yeah, I think so.
My God.
But then again, you know, she's also a person that thinks that she can, you know, tell professional scholars whether or not they're right or wrong.
Yeah, but she does it through plagiarism.
Yeah, that's true.
So for those of you not in the know, SJ is somewhat infamous. She wrote a book that when people read the book, they started thinking like, oh, this sounds familiar. And they found that she would like borrow large swaths of text from other people's blog posts, their apologetic blog posts, and she would not credit them. And it happened frequently enough that it's just like, yeah, I know all the arguments tend to be the same, but this is way too similar and frequent to be an accident. Like this is probably plagiarism. But anyway, like communism is the passing. Okay. But also she's a Christian apologist. Communism is the passing of debt from one group to another. Isn't Christianity's whole thing that Jesus has paid our debt for us? We have a debt of sin and that we are unable to pay. We are struggling to try and pay it. We just can't because we're not good enough, because all of sin falls short of the glory of God. So that's the beautiful thing about Christianity, is that Jesus has offered to pay your debt for you.
Mm-hmm. That is what they teach, for sure.
So Christianity is communism.
I mean,
according to SJ.
well, yeah. So, what is it? I believe PragerU actually did a video on that, trying to prove that um, Christianity's not like it was either Christianity isn't communist or socialist or maybe both.
So did they? So they address the Bible verse that explicitly tells everybody to sell all their crap and give it to the Christian commune that they were all living on.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch it, but from what I've heard is that that they pretty much just use bad arguments, of course, to
So it's
to argue
PragerU.
that
Like that's
I know
that's
but
kind of the default assumption there.
yeah, but yeah, I mean they pretty much just brushed it off, like as if that's not what that verse is supposed to mean.
They just
Like
jingled their keys
he's
over
trying
here.
to teach something else, huh?
They just jingled their keys over here to distract you.
Yeah, yeah. Look at this red
so-
car over here.
Is Christianity communist? Look over there. Yeah, that's always the best offense. Yeah, I just finished up a video on slavery right now, and it's another apologetic response to it. And I don't know if I've ever seen a single apologist actually address the verses in Leviticus and Deuteronomy that say that you can take your slaves from the nations around you and those can be your slaves for life that you pass down as inherited property. I don't think I've seen any apologist even so much as mention those verses.
Well, no, so
I'm sure some of them have. There can't be none that mention them, but they are so hard to find.
Right. Well, I mean, I know that Mike Winger, he just outright denies that there's any kind of chattel slavery in the Bible, and I haven't heard him address that particular one, but the video that I have coming out tomorrow is him addressing Numbers 31, 17 to 18, where it has the Israelites stealing a bunch of virgin girls to be sex slaves.
Yeah.
And he addresses that, and it's particularly bad.
Well, Deuteronomy 20 is another fun one where these are part of God's law that he is laying out. So his law for when you are invading foreign cities is to offer them the option to surrender, and if they surrender, then they all get to be forced laborers, and it uses the term forced labor. Like, what is that if not chattel slavery?
Oh, well, the apologists will tell you that that's just, debt servitude or debt slavery.
No, I have heard some of them.
Know how.
I have heard some of them address the slaves taken in war. They usually just kind of like passingly mention it and be like, "Oh yeah, but that was the minority thing, and they were still good to them, and they still freed them after 6 years or whatever." And then they just don't talk about it. But I've never actually seen any of them address the verse that says you can keep your slaves for life.
Yeah, no, I haven't either. Them addressing it or I haven't heard of them directly addressing that. The ones that I've heard have either said that chattel slavery doesn't exist, or the prisoners of war type of situation are like that's just like the best thing to do at the time. And then another thing that I've encountered is apologists saying that these weren't laws that God wanted to make. God had to make these laws like this because of our hard hearts.
Yeah, and they use Jesus talking about divorce to excuse that.
Yeah.
What I find funny about that is that in the Exodus story, the laws about slavery are literally the next things that come out of God's mouth right after the 10 Commandments. And this is this is within months of the Israelites being freed from slavery in Egypt. You'd think that if a culture was at any time going to be ready to hear laws just outright banning slavery, it would be right after they were all just slaves. And they'd be like, yeah, I remember how shitty that was. So sure, I'm not going to do that. Like, that would be when they would be most receptive to it, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
KC says enslaving them is better than killing them. but Deuteronomy 20 also, so at the end of the Deuteronomy 20 thing where it says that you take them as forced laborers or whatever, and if they don't surrender, then you kill all the men and then take the women and children as forced laborers. Well, it doesn't say forced labor for that. It actually says slave. So you can imagine what they were using them for. The next segment is like, it actually ends with like, this is how you're to treat cities that are far away from you. And then the next paragraph is how you treat cities that are close to you. And the way you treat cities that are close to you is you just kill all of them. Don't keep any of them as slaves. They'll tempt you away from God. You kill all of them.
Yeah.
So, Anyway, next up we get Tim Young says how leftists view the Constitution with a redacted version of the Constitution. I think this is a fascinating thing to me because like this was referring to the affidavit that was used to justify the search warrant that they executed on Trump's property. And the affidavit was heavily redacted for security purposes because like there's going to be information in there that if Trump gets a hold of that information, he can use it to obstruct justice, like intimidate witnesses and things like that. So it was redacted for security purposes to protect certain people and to make sure the investigation can continue without interference from people trying to get in the way of the investigation. But the way the right views redaction, I think, because like if you remember back to Bill Barr and the Mueller report, he redacted that pretty much explicitly to make Trump look as good as possible, or as less bad as possible.
Right.
So I think that they now think because of that like because this is how we use redaction, this must be how everybody uses redaction. So if there's redaction, it's redaction that would make Trump look good because they want to make Trump look bad.
Right.
But that's just not the purpose of a redaction.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. But I find it funny how every time the Republicans sort of try to, I guess, shit talk liberals or shit talk leftists, however you want to put it, whenever they do that, it kind of seems like they're just outing themselves.
Yeah, every accusation is a confession.
That's the phrase. I couldn't think of the phrase, but that's it.
Yeah, Darth Studicus said that is objectively how the right wing views the Constitution right now. It's like, yeah, they kind of ignore that whole establishment clause in the First Amendment.
They definitely do. Or well, the with the First Amendment, the go-to argument there is just that that it doesn't have a wall of separation in it. That phrase isn't found anywhere in the Constitution, so there is no wall.
This gets us back to that strict constructionism,
right? And that what it means is that the state can't influence the churches. That doesn't mean the churches can't influence the state.
Yeah, that's a crappy excuse. I don't like that.
Oh, definitely. It's total shit. But I guess the way that I've thought about this logically is that, they still shoot themselves in the foot whenever they make this particular argument, because let's just say for shits and giggles that a church does influence the state, and the church influences the state to push, whatever the church's doctrines on the country in general. Well, then that means that the state is going to be forcing doctrines that are not part of one particular church but are part of another particular church, so they still end up forcing the state to impose church doctrines on churches that don't hold those doctrines.
Yeah, if the church successfully influences the state, then necessarily the state is also influencing the church, because the church is not a monolithic thing.
Exactly.
And even if it was, there are people that do not belong to a church, but they don't think that those people have rights.
Right.
All right.
Obviously, we don't have rights.
Now we get to Trump's truth. He truthed this out. Says, so now it comes out conclusively that the FBI buried the Hunter Biden laptop story before the election, knowing that if they didn't, Trump would have easily won the 2020 presidential election. I'm a call bullshit on that. I don't know what he's referring to there with it coming out conclusively. And he says, this is massive fraud and election interference at a level never seen before in our country. Remedy? Declare the rightful winner, or, and this would be the minimal solution, declare the 2020 election irreparably compromised and have a new election immediately. That's not how elections work. If Biden were to be disqualified from office for some reason right now, then you don't get to redo the 2020 election. You get Kamala Harris as president.
Right.
That's what the whole chain of succession is.
Right. I honestly love how he's basically sitting there being like, either give me the presidency or redo the entire thing. That's your choice. Like,
how about no? Why, I choose no.
I don't understand why he thinks he can like just truth or tweet something out, and everybody's like, oh well, shit, guys, he said it on Truth Social that's going to be bankrupt like here in a few days, but we should probably
1.6 million in unpaid bills. Well, the thing is, I don't know if that the company that's hosting them might go bankrupt before they do, because the thing is, they're hosted by a company that is explicitly catering to the right wing, with the idea that they're trying to avoid cancel culture or whatever. So they haven't paid their hosting bills. They're in arrears to the amount of like 1.6 million. But if this hosting company cuts them off, then they're now going to have Trump coming after them saying that they canceled Truth Social. So they're this cancel culture. They cave into cancel culture, and their whole business model is we don't give into cancel culture. So now they're stuck between a rock and a hard place where like they might not be able to continue operating because one of their biggest clients isn't paying them, and it costs a lot of money to run a server farm. So like I could definitely see the hosting service going bankrupt before Truth Social, but either way it'd be like, I don't know. This would just be another of Trump's bankrupt businesses. Apparently Trump said.
Oh, go ahead.
Apparently Trump said, "Why are people so mean on Truth Social?" I saw people posting screenshots of that. I thought about grabbing it, but I couldn't find it for myself. Like I did look. There's only so much of that site that I can take, but yeah.
I saw several people tweeting it out, saying that this was really tweeted out. Of course, I don't have a Truth Social account, so I can't go on there. But he could have very well deleted it.
Maybe that was my thought, but I couldn't find it for myself, and I have a policy now because that I don't do anything that I don't find for myself, or that I don't really see myself.
That is a good policy, if I can say from my own past experience. That is a good.
It's my own past experience that informs that policy. Now, along those lines, I think this tweet was probably either bait or satire or something.
This one right here?
The vanilla opinions? Yeah, sorry, I moved on.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
Says one single $1,200 check for the entirety of the pandemic with nothing else. Only $10,000 of my $150,000 student debt from law school forgiven. Remind me why I should vote for Joe Biden in 2024. It's like, well, because even ignoring all the stuff I said at the beginning of the stream about how awesome this debt forgiveness bill, or not bill, the plan is, and how it actually does do some of the work needed to fix some of the predatory student loan situation. If you had a Republican in office, the number of student loan forgiveness would be 0, and $10,000 is bigger than 0.
Well, I mean, come on, dude. Look, it's either all or nothing. All right, you can't do this partial shit. It's not like 10,000 is going to help. So if you're going to do anything, just wipe it all out for one. If you're not, then it's just pointless.
Yeah, no,
it's ridiculous.
This is the living embodiment of don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
Exactly.
It's like, yeah, Joe Biden ain't perfect, and arguably he's not. I don't know, because like drone strikes are down to their lowest point in decades. So like he's killing less people indiscriminately. Like
Oh,
I'm sure there are things that he has done that you could say are bad, and you could say that he's not moving fast enough and that is bad, but he's doing some things that are good. So I say overall he probably is at least a little bit good.
Mm-hmm. But all of these people, which I know that you think this might be a Poe tweet, but all these people that have like this super that are super against the student loan forgiveness, I did not hear like one peep out of hardly any of these people when the PPP loans were forgiven, or any of that.
That's my favorite brand of tweet right now, is the people complaining about student loan forgiveness to immediately have someone post the screenshot of their PPP loan forgiveness information, because that was all public. Yeah, anyway, I think this is this the last one? Yeah, this is the last tweet for the night. This was the tweet that I added at the last minute because it was just, and this is one of the ones that I was like, okay, I need to verify this for myself. As I saw someone else post a screenshot, and then I went and took my own screenshot. The House Judiciary GOP retweeted, so Kyle Cheney, this other person, tweeted out, news, DOJ's new filings include photos of the classified documents found at Mar-a-Lago on August 8th with a picture of a bunch of highly classified material just lying on the floor that they took. Now, I don't know if they like spread out the pictures, spread out the material in order to take that picture to just kind of give an example of it, or if that's how they found it. I don't know. I'm not making a claim one way or the other. But the House Judiciary GOP's take on this, when they see all this top secret information, was be like, oh, that Time magazine cover was a huge threat to national security. I don't see what the big deal is. Like, excuse me? Like, yeah, no, the Time magazine isn't the big deal in this picture. Technically speaking, that does belong to the National Archives, not Trump. But
yeah,
I don't think we're worried about that.
No, definitely not. I mean, it's all of the top secret, like stuff that's on the floor. And I mean, it's so crazy that he was allowed to just walk out of the White House with that. I mean, there was a girl, I want to reality winner. I mean, I believe she stole like one document and like leaked it, and I think it was something about the Russia collusion, I believe. But she took one document and and like released it and whatnot, and caused leakage, and she had to serve a few months in jail. I can't remember exactly how long. I'll look it up real quick.
Oh, apparently the House Judiciary GOP Twitter is just Jim Jordan not wanting to use his own account.
Oh, is it?
That kind of tracks, actually.
Oh,
this is definitely at his level.
Yeah, and KC said, if I handled classified material like he has, I'd be in prison.
Yeah, you told me all about all the classified information you were handling, including what was in it. You shouldn't have done that. That was a joke. He didn't actually do that.
No. But with all this classified material, I mean, I don't think that a lot of people understand like how serious it is, this classified material, because like I've worked on classified machines before, and they literally do not want a classified machine, the power plug plugged into the same outlet as just an unclassified machine. Like you can
use the power lines separate for Ethernet, man. No, I'm not joking. You actually can.
No. I know we've got a security system on our house, and we've got power over Ethernet for them. But
no, I'm talking about Ethernet over power, not power over Ethernet. Those are two different things.
Oh, okay.
Apparently we have someone. We have a butthurt emails person in the chat.
Oh, really?
KC said, if I handle classified information like that, like he has, I'd be in prison. And then this person says, not if you're Hillary Clinton. It's like, yeah, you know what? The anything that would have been on Hillary's private email server would not have been anywhere near as bad as the stuff in this picture. And like realistically,
Right.
like even if there was, sure, send Hillary to prison. Also send Trump to prison. I'm okay with that. I'll take that compromise.
Yeah. Reality Winner was sentenced to 5 years for violating the Espionage Act.
Yeah.
So, and that was just one document. And there's, let's see, in this thing, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 top secrets, 1 secret, and I can't really tell what the other ones are. It looks like there's at least what 1, 2 top secrets, or maybe not top secrets, but just secrets back there. 6. There's a shit ton of like leakage in this, and it's just not pretty.
Yeah, I'm gonna plug opening arguments again. They actually go through some of the stuff that we suspect was taken from Mar-a-Lago, and some of the top secret codings that are used on them and what they mean, and like how sensitive this material is, and the fact that the idea that like the reports that we've been hearing about the CIA and FBI having like a bunch of agents suddenly get compromised and killed overseas. No, that wouldn't be the FBI. That would, yeah, like there might actually be a connection to what Trump took with these agents suddenly being compromised. So like normally that would just be like some like, oh yeah, no, you're just looking for patterns where there aren't necessarily any. Like, well, that's actually plausible with what we know he took. But anyway, we should probably call it quits tonight. Lily is waiting very patiently just off camera for me to say goodbye. We ran late tonight.
Oh, okay.
All right. Well,
so tell her I'm so sorry about that.
Yeah, so Zamaz is still going in the comments, as the FBI said she had classified info on her server. Yeah, I don't know, but the thing is, all the charges that were brought against, or not were brought, but all the charges that were listed on the search warrant that would be brought against Trump if they find what they were looking for, none of them require that the documents actually be classified in order for him to have violated those particular statutes. It just has to be like information dealing with national security, for instance. And like, so even if he did do the thing that he said he did, where he declassified everything and nothing was actually classified, doesn't matter.
Right. Well, and I mean, he couldn't, like, that's just not how the classification process works. Like, there are things.
It is debatable, because the president has very broad declassification abilities. It is debatable whether or not he could just like circumvent that whole system and say this is declassified. So now technically it is, even if the lawyers didn't do the follow-up work. But that's not a defense in this case, because it doesn't matter if they were classified or not. Anyway, listen to the opening arguments episode on that. He actually goes over this whole thing. Like, I'm probably butchering the legal crap here, and you have more experience working with classified documents than I do, so maybe you know more than me.
Well, I just so I know we're trying to get off of here, but just for not president people, there's a very extensive like classification process that goes on, and it's usually never like a single person that can just decide, well, this gets declassified or something like that. So I mean, it's a very complicated process usually. So I don't know what powers the president has, but I feel like if they were nuclear secrets, I don't think that he would just be able to willy-nilly declassify it.
That's another thing that, again, the opening arguments episode goes over this, but it is that's not the one that I have linked in the description. That's a couple episodes before that, I think. But it's possible that yes, he might have still had the ability to declassify the nuclear secrets. But it's a question of why would he? Now, another interesting thing, like when he claimed there's executive privilege material that they took away from Mar-a-Lago, The thing with that is that executive privilege does not tie to the person who was president when those materials were made. It applies to the current president. So if he's saying that there is executive privilege material that the FBI removed from Mar-a-Lago, then that's essentially a confession to the crime. Because if it's executive privilege material, then that means it belongs, like it's privilege between Joe Biden and White House counsel. So that means it belongs either with the National Archives or with Joe Biden. So if Trump has it at Mar-a-Lago, then that's a crime. So him saying he has executive privilege materials means that he committed a crime. So anyway, that is also covered on our opening arguments. This is the me telling you to go listen to opening arguments for 2 hours episode of Twit Tweets. Anyway, I'm going to hit the end credits button now. Thank you so much for joining me, John. His channel is Godless Engineer on YouTube. Links in the description. He's got a Twitter and all that crap as well. You're Slim Gravy on Twitter right now, right?
Yeah.
I like that name.
Yeah, that's my title. I'm still just at Godless Engineer.
Yeah. But I like the name. Is that one of those, somebody threw this at me as an insult, so I'm going to change my name to it?
Oh, no. Actually, it was a friend. He told Casey to give Slim Gravy a hug from me. And so
that's amazing.
So I was like, I love that.
That's amazing. I love it too. That's great. Anyway, have a good night.